It is unfortunate that while many people understand that they are interdimensional beings, they do not understand in which the waves actually work in the world, in the physical. They want to be focused more on the spiritual, and they want to be focused more on the entirety of the abstract. And there's nothing really wrong with that per se. However, doing so will prohibit you from really realizing your full potential. And one of the things that I want to talk about in the Semen Retention Sunday episode is why you need to hodl your Bitcoin and your nuts, bro. You just do. And what I'm saying is that I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I'm not really an all-in of Bitcoin kind of a thing. But the problem is that we are continually seeing the debasement of this currency that is the fiat currency. If not many people are familiar with the term fiat. The term fiat currency comes from being a currency that is regulated by either central banks or the government. And when you have a currency that is based on that, they can print money while debasing or devaluing your purchasing power. In fact, within the last year or so, with the inflation rate being of 10%, that means that every 36 days or so in the United States, every dollar that you have is now worth 99 cents. And it's going to continue to lose value 1 cent per dollar every 36 days at this point. That gives us basically 10 years before the dollar is valueless. Okay? So why exactly do we need to understand Bitcoin, and why exactly do we need to understand how this correlates and contrasts with semen retention? Well, with semen retention, you are retaining your energy, right? You are seeing that there's a sense of divinity within you and that you do not want to just waste that for no reason. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be in a long-term relationship. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have a family someday. But if you are not going to be participating in the degeneracy of life, which so many of us are encouraged to do, and we're encouraged to be in perversion, well, then what are we supposed to do exactly? We're really supposed to just, hold on to our nuts and hodl our nuts. And if anybody doesn't really know what hodl is, or hodl, however you want to pronounce it, it means hold on for dear life. So, for example, with Bitcoin right now, there's a lot of market manipulation, and with really all the stocks, really with gold and silver are behaving like meme coins. Okay, and I'm not saying that this is financial advice necessarily, because this is not a financial channel. But in order to understand the totality of life and to be whole, being holy really isn't the aim for me, because I know that I'm not really holy in a certain sense, but I'm whole, and in that wholeness, then there is holiness. And that's where I want to most focus my attention, because for the last, I would say, week or so, maybe a bit longer than that now, honestly, but especially in the last week or so, there's been a lot of business stress for me. There's been a lot of uncertainty. There's been a lot of exhaustion of just dealing with people that truly don't understand the difference between price and value. Because I want to make sure that people who are wanting to get this type of information are having it available to them as much as possible and as soon as possible. And the people that don't understand the difference between value and cost, I don't even really want to deal with them anymore. Because the people that don't understand the difference between value and cost are worldly. And something that I found with Bitcoin is that, yes, it can be just as much of a cult as Christianity or Muslim or whatever religion or whatever, right? It can be just as much of that. But the problem is that we don't really have any other options. Bitcoin is going to be a potential way to save your debasement or your devaluation of the dollar. And you might ask, well, If that's true, then why is there so much market fluctuation, and what exactly does Bitcoin do for me? Well, Bitcoin is essentially like a golden ratio, but for finances. It's something that it's a mathematical solution. It's not even a solution. It just is a mathematical singularity. Okay, the golden ratio, pi, exact, like all these other things that are math, like 1 plus 1 is going to equal 2 no matter what, right? That's just the way the math is set up. That's just the way that Bitcoin's set up. The math is just going to math. Now, does this mean that there's not problems with Bitcoin? Absolutely. There's potential issues for the wealth inequality to be even greater than it is today. Because if there were a Bitcoin standard, I'm not really convinced that it would be best for society. But I know fiat is not the best thing for society, because we're continually seeing that we have to, even if we get a 5% raise each year, the inflation rate is just not going to, the inflation is going to surpass our salary increases per year. And so we end up having to work more and more and more for nothing. Really for nothing. And so you might ask yourself, well, then what the hell is the point of all this? Well, that's a good question. It's a good question, because the whole thing with the Epstein files coming out recently, the whole thing with understanding the true depths and the insanity of what these people are actually doing, and the humiliation ritual on us as citizens, where we are being forced to pay taxes to these people who are doing terrible things to children. And we're just meant to just accept this, apparently. And that's the humiliation ritual as far as I can tell. And we also just have to accept that there's like that this is what they're telling us, right? I'm not saying this is what we need to do. I'm just saying this is what they're telling us, is that there's nothing we can really do about it. They are literally flaunting in your face how corrupt they are and telling you that they're untouchable. These are malevolent people. And some of these Christians out here might say, well, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. It's like, well, but did Jesus Christ ever say, oh yeah, you can render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, as long as he's showing you that he's raping children and he's eating children as well, as long as he lets you know. No, that's not what he said. And he never said to take abuse either. Jesus Christ never said to take abuse. So, and a lot of people might say, well, what about the turning the other cheek? It's like, well, no, it's more like, if you're going to be in a fight, go all in. Go all in. If you're going to be in a fight, go all in, because you're going to find out what you're really made of and who you really are. Now, I'm not saying that we should go fight. I'm not calling for violence here. I'm not saying anything like that. But what I'm saying is that we need another avenue of understanding. And semen retention is a viable option for you to understand that there's a divinity within you that needs protection. And I've said this before recently, we're going to leave the world as wicked as we found it. There's no other option in which I see that this is going to be a better way or a better solution other than to be on semen retention as much as possible, unless we find a woman and create a relationship with a woman, rather, not find it, but create it. A relationship with a woman who understands that family is to be valued. She's loyal. Like, I was thinking about this, right? A lot of my problems recently would be a lot less burdensome if women just were who they were meant to be. And I'm not saying that it's women's fault, but you know what? Like, I've at least aimed to be who I'm supposed to be. A lot of these women out here have not aimed to be who they're supposed to be at all. At all. And so why is it that we as men have to take the brunt of this? Well, because we're the men. We're the leaders. And you can't really, this is something I realized recently, is that it's hard to be friends with people that you kind of have to lead. And this is where you can't really be friends with women. is because, and this is something that semen retention will teach you if you haven't come to this conclusion already, because it's just going to be natural for you, right? Like, you can't really be friends with women because you're supposed to lead them. And what happens when they think that they're equal to you? Well, they try to take advantage of you, or they don't really listen. And this is something that I've also thought about recently. It's like, sometimes we don't need advice as people, as individuals. We don't really need advice. We just need to feel acknowledged for the burden and the stress that we're going through to try to make something happen. And this is where, do you understand the value or the cost of what's happening? Because if you don't understand the value of, let's say, Bitcoin, or the value of gold or silver, or the value of semen retention, the value of freedom in your soul, if you don't understand the value, the only thing that I can do is force you to pay a cost and to pay a price. But I don't want to force you to do anything. I don't need to force you to do anything. I can't even force you to do anything, even if I wanted to. That's the truth, really. A lot of these manipulators and tyrannical figures, they want to force you into believing that you have to be a certain way, or that you have to act a certain way, and all this stuff. And it's just not the truth. It's just not the truth. And the reason being is because if you ask them questions, and it's like, well, because I said so, it's not an answer. Trust me, bro, that's not an answer either. If I cannot verify it through my own experience, and this is one of the reasons why I like semen retention as well. Everything that I say on semen retention, if you really want to know, you can verify it through your own experience. And if you have the proper understanding of, like, this is to grow closer to God. Yes, money will flow to you more easily, and there will be more opportunities available to you. But you have to remember why you're doing this. And that's something even I tell myself as well. I've been doing this for nearly 4 years. Somebody asked me, like, recently, they're like, oh, how many weeks has it been? It's like, how many weeks? Like, dude, I've been doing this for almost 4 years. I've been doing this for almost 4 years. What are you talking about? Like, weeks? How many weeks I've been doing this? I've been doing this for years. And the thing is that it never really gets easier, but it gets easier. And you might think to yourself, Thaddeus, what are you talking about? Well, the Regal Change old timers will know exactly what I'm talking about, because life is a paradox. Truth is a paradox. And that the temptations, everything's going to be there. Like, okay, think about Bitcoin right now, right? Bitcoin has dropped dramatically, like dramatically and traumatically for a lot of people over the past couple weeks. It dropped like almost 47% or something like that at one point. And people just started to freak out, right? All the normies started to freak out. All the NPCs started to freak out. They started to sell their Bitcoin. It's like, no. This is where you hodl or hodl, whatever you want to call it. I call it hodl because I think it's funnier, but or hodl rather, because I just like talking about it like that. But anyway, the point is that when you cannot stomach the conviction of falling on your face, like if you fall on your face and you can't stomach your own conviction, that's not true conviction. And so for me, for example, I would rather double down on my own vision, and I would double down on what I want to see happen in the world and what I want to change in myself, than to be put on a low value timeline that somebody else wanted to craft for me and that I was deceived to walk into. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to get what I want, but I'm going to do everything that I can to get what I want, because I know that, like, here's the other thing, right? People think that, oh, well, because you're spiritual, if things aren't going 110% the way that you want it, maybe you're not so spiritual. It's like, that's not the way, it's not the way the world works. And I know this because even myself, I've been angry recently about why things aren't happening as fast as I know that they could be happening. And it's like these constant obstacles are occurring and coming up, and these religious spirits are coming my way. And it just is like, why does it feel like people are trying to really intentionally sabotage my own progress? Well, because they kind of are, and they really are. And it's not really their fault. It's just that they are a product of the construct that is this reality. They are a construct made of manufactured information and ideologies, and that's what their personality is. And so they're going to ensure that you follow the construct, because that's all that they are, is manufactured information. And so when you're trying to be free, it feels like you're in a prison. It feels like you are like suffering for no real reason. And that's exactly how I felt for a lot of this recently. It's like I'm just in limbo and there's no feedback. There's no feedback in limbo. And yet I know that by the end of this limbo and this threshold in my timeline, I'm going to be in a much better place no matter what. It's just until I get to that point, which I don't know exactly how long it's going to be, I'm going to have to make certain decisions, and I can only control what I can control. And the whole point of Bitcoin is that it kind of teaches you patience in a new kind of way. Bitcoin teaches you how to truly live in accordance to your own conviction. Because if you truly understand that the dollar, the US dollar, the fiat system, whatever currency you're using that's a fiat currency, if it truly is going to continue to debase, which it will be, then there has to be another alternative. And you have to start looking for that other alternative. Gold and silver are only going to get you so far at this point, in my opinion. And again, this is not financial advice. I love silver, I love gold, but it's only going to get you so far. It just is. There's no other option that I see apart from Bitcoin. And again, I'm not even a Bitcoin maxi. I don't even really like, I know what Bitcoin is, but I can see that it has the potential for evil. Okay, but that's what true power is really like. True power is really like where you have to recognize that it can be used as a weapon or a tool. Just like your body. That's something that martial arts taught me, is that my body can be used as a way to express itself and as a tool to express itself, or it can be used as a weapon. And you have to understand both sides of that. You don't necessarily have to be one way or another. Inherently, it might be better to be the tool if you have to, but don't be a tool, right? Like don't be a d-hole. but you get what I'm saying, is that be something that you can build and be a builder, or you're going to be a destroyer. But with semen retention, you're capable of understanding this on a deeper level. You're accessing higher value timelines. You're understanding your own archetypes. If you're not sharing the enthusiasm and sharing the liveliness of this life with the people around you, they're either spiritually dead, they're not listening to you, or they don't understand the difference between value and cost. And it's really just that simple. So this is one of the reasons why, with the Regal Change Academy that we have, I have currently the free tier and the premium tier. And what I've noticed is with the people with the free tier, they often just want to pop in and see what's going on and or a harvest and or a farm, and then they leave. Or if they're actually interested, they'll stick around and can they see the value. People that can see the value. But that probably only happens about 50% of the time with the people that join for free. And it's because the people that are actually going to see the value, they are not worldly. They're just not. They understand that this is a spiritual domain, but they also understand the practicalities of the physical world. And it's the same type of thing with my one-on-one sessions in the Godlike Mastery program that I have. The Godlike Mastery program that I have, people just get it. it's a lot easier and simpler to understand for those kinds of people. But it's like for the other people who, some of them are in the one-on-one, some of them are not. They just want to have a conversation and they just want to feel heard for a minute. And that's what I mean. Like when I was talking about this earlier, some people they don't really want to fix their problems. They just want to be acknowledged that they have the issues and that they're going to be okay. It's just that they need to feel acknowledged. They don't feel acknowledged and they don't feel appreciated. And that's really the biggest thing. And I think a lot of men are going through that specifically. A lot of men just don't feel like they're appreciated for the burdens that they're having to carry. So why carry the burden? It's like, well, part of being a man is, in some ways, you're going to have to accept not being appreciated. Now, it's not to say that you should accept abuse, right? That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that you kind of have to recognize that a man's life is meant to be difficult. And all these other avenues of like finances, economics, institutions, governments, all these other things are going to teach you that trying to govern people and trying to control people is just not, it's just not the case. And Bitcoin taught me that verifying interactions is going to be potent for the future. That's one thing that I really like about Bitcoin, is because it's pseudo anonymous, whereas you can see the wallets and such, you can see what they're doing, and you can see at least the numbers of how much Bitcoin people are holding, and where it's going and why it's going there, but you don't really know who's who. You just see that it's actually happening. It's like the Akashic Records, but instead of that spiritual library, it's going to be for the the blockchain. But you're chained to a block, and is that a good thing? I don't know. But I hope that these were at least different perspectives that you can think about and ponder as you go about your semen retention journey and your spiritual journey as a whole. I hope everybody stays blessed. Hodl your Bitcoin, hodl your nuts, and we'll see you next time. Peace.